Tune into ESG Matters with Risk Insights, where we explore ESG with impact. Welcome to ESG Matters with Risk Insights. I'm your host, Anushka Bogdanov, and today's podcast confronts the shifting tides of global leadership, climate justice, and economic morality. Today's episode isn't just a conversation, it's a wake up call. We are talking about the global leadership vacuum, the dangerous legacy of Trump's bully tactics, and the role Africa must now play in writing the governance playbook for the 21st century. Firstly, our climate is in crisis, and leadership is failing us. Let's start with the planet. In North America, wildfires in California, record floods across the South, and at the peak of climate urgency, the US withdrew from the Paris Agreement. The Trump administration gutted over 100 environmental protections. Now, South America, the Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth, saw record deforestation. With the US retreating, pressure on Brazil to protect the rainforest may collapse. In Europe, the EU tried to lead on climate, but without the US, collective enforcement has been weakened. Carbon markets have stalled, and green transitions are slowing. As for Asia, in India and China, we have seen deadly heat waves and a pollution crisis. But the US absence has weakened international pressure and gives room to prioritize irresponsible industrial expansion. For Australia, 2019 and 2020 brought the worst bushfire season in history. Nearly 3 billion animals were affected. Still, the climate change momentum is slowing down as global cooperation has faltered. In Africa, our Horn suffers drought. The South suffers from floods. Africa, which contributes less than 4% of global emissions, is disproportionately impacted. Meanwhile, climate financing pledges remain unmet and falling. And the US, once the largest contributor, has stepped back. This isn't poor diplomacy. This is climate negligence at scale. Let's talk about economic bullying and markets held hostage. The Trump-era wars were not strategic. They were psychological warfare on economies. Between April 3rd and 8th of 2025, the 25 largest US public pension funds lost $169 billion in value due to market volatility from tariff shocks. In total, pension funds had seen $249 billion wiped out since the start of the year. The S&P 500 shed nearly $6 trillion when the latest tariffs were announced. This was the worst four-day market performance since 2008. Australia's markets lost $160 billion with superannuation funds suffering major hits. This is not global leadership. This is playing roulette with people's retirements and then pausing the game. No explanation, no accountability. Economic bullying is not a show of strength. It's a breach of global trust. This is the worst economic crisis created by one man in the history of global markets. By Tuesday, the 8th of April, the markets had lost almost $10 trillion while there has been some bounce back. Now, the moral compass is broken. Once the US stood as a symbol of governance, transparency, and the rule of law. In February 2025, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act was suspended by executive order, effectively legalizing bribery abroad. The mask has come off. This wasn't competitiveness. This was complicity. It signaled to the world, we will win at any cost, even if it means dismantling the very moral framework we told others to follow. Africa has seen this before, and we must not see it again. Africa's hidden power is not spoken about or seen as relevant. That's why we must lead now. We hold 30% of the world's mineral reserves, over 70% of global cobalt output, critical for electric vehicles and batteries, massive deposits of lithium, rare earths, and manganese, all essential for AI, robotics, and energy storage. Yet, we capture less than 10% of the global revenue from these resources. We are providing the fuel for the 21st century tech revolution, but not participating in the value chain. Now, the US legalizes bribery. Do we open the door again to being exploited? Will we be worrying about corruption in Africa instigated by the West? The global south players then hold no votes of confidence by our societies because some other power has created access to bribes. No, stop. We must write our own governance playbook. Local beneficiation, transparent, equitable deals, strategic alliances based on mutual benefit and not dependency. Africa must be a price setter, not a price taker. Now, I want to stop on governance hypocrisy, billionaires and broken systems. Consider this: a billionaire can fund a political campaign, receive billions in subsidies, and then influence foreign and defense policy. We talk about tender fraud and breaches of PFMA in South Africa. What we're seeing in the US would be a downright qualification on an audited financial statement. Africa must learn. No person or company should be above the state. No contracts without full disclosure. No political donations that come with backroom deals. Governance means accountability, not proximity to power. The fallout of the US aid cuts is a cautionary tale. In South Sudan, US aid cuts triggered a cholera outbreak after health centers closed. 8 people died, including 5 children. PEPFAR programs across Africa now face tangible threats. HIV/AIDS programs and prevention for millions is at risk. Education, women's health, and food security programs have all been slashed. But there is hope in the face of this. Africa's innovation is rising. Community driven programs, local ESG initiatives, and indigenous climate solutions. Necessity is birthing a new era of self reliance. So, my call to action is rewriting the playbook. This moment of global chaos and declining trust is Africa's turning point. So, to our African leaders, I say, reclaim your power, renegotiate every agreement, demand accountability from within and beyond. To civil society, let us organize, educate, and hold our leaders accountable. Ask who profits and at whose expense. To the diaspora, come home, build, invest, influence policy. We need your brilliance and your boldness. And to our global partners, if you want our minerals, respect our sovereignty, bring transparency, and bring fair trade. So, my final thoughts: a new dawn. The US was once seen as a moral compass, but the needle has shattered. The world is realigning. Africa is not a pawn, Africa is the prize. We don't need to copy broken systems. We need to build our own, stronger, fairer, and for the next generation. The time is now. Thank you for listening. Share this episode. Start conversations because history is watching and Africa is rising. I'm Anushka Bogdanov, and ciao for now.